Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. Today, as massively requested, we are looking at the ship that is currently in the Blitz Pass. And the ship that seems to have made some waves, pun intended, and the first Pan-American, although probably really South American, battleship. This is the Atlântico. And I think that is how you pronounce that in Portuguese. Why am I looking at that in Portuguese? Well, because I'm reasonably certain that this is meant to be a Brazilian battleship. And by the looks of it, probably from the naval arms race in the early 20th century that happened between Brazil, Chile, and Argentina. I'm not sure if it actually says. It says it's a project of a battleship equipped with British-made 381mm guns and American dual-purpose AA artillery. So that tells us a couple of things. First of all, most likely Brazil, because the Brazilians were the ones actually asking the British to build ships for them, which caused a couple of waves, because the Brazilians at the time were the first ones were one of the first countries in the world, besides the British obviously, to actually build dreadnoughts. Well, they weren't building them, they were paying the British to do it, but still. That did cause some interest, because Brazil until that time wasn't necessarily known as a major power. And the whole thing triggered then a bit of an arms race with Argentina and Chile. But I think, I'm not sure if it was Argentina or Chile, but one of them was having ships built by the American shipyards, whereas the Brazilians were getting the British to do it. Which, by the way, led to the Agincourt, which we have in Tier 5 in the game as a premium. But this is not a ship that was actually existing. So this may be a hypothetical sort of super dreadnought project from the early 19th century. It does say 1918, even though this information here is not always accurate. But it's entirely possible that that this is meant to be a Brazilian ship. So what is this thing all about then? Well, it's an interesting ship, that's for sure. And why is that interesting? Well, let's start doing some comparisons. We've already seen British guns and American dual-purpose guns, so presumably 127s, but we'll find out in a second. I've got two things that I would like to compare the ship to: the Bismarck and the Cheshire. Now, if you don't already know what this thing's all about, that might sound like a bit of an odd choice, but bear with me here. Let's begin with the Bismarck. The Atlântico has a secondary overload 3, and not just one of them. She's got 3 charges of it. The secondary overload skill has been introduced actually way after the German battleships existed and has been retrofitted onto them. I think it was around about the time the Odin came out when that ship skill was introduced. So the Tech 3 ships did get it retrofitted, and they didn't have it previously. But what it does is it increases secondary gun reload and range by 30%. So this doesn't just work for the manual secondaries, but also for auto secondaries if the ship has them. It's one of the things that makes the Odin fun, because she's got glorious secondaries. So the other reason we're looking at this is because this thing's got an extreme amount of armor plating. This is comparable to what the Frederick the Great gets at Tier 9. Not necessarily in actual stats, but in terms of the stats that we can see here, with a citadel protection of 20% and a damage reduction of 18%, makes her, at least on these values, I think the heaviest armored ship in Tier 8. More than the Bismarck, although she does have a very low, for a Tier 8 battleship, hit point pool. So that is somewhat compensating for that. She's also dreadfully slow, which again kind of makes sense to have this as a World War I or pre-World War I pedigree ship, which was probably then later refitted in the US because that sort of thing happened. But she's got a top speed of 24 knots, which is nothing to write home about. And not sure if there's any. Tier 8 would see the North Carolinas on the American, so normal standard battleship. Not sure if there's anything slower than that in Tier 8. I'll have to check, but it's not an awful lot. And the maneuverability is okay. It's not. It's actually pretty decent for that. But the guns are 381 millimeter, 42 length. So I think similar guns to what we're seeing on the hood. So technically the same caliber as something like the Bismarck, but with a couple of peculiarities. For once, the reload with 23 seconds is a bit on the long side. While she does get 10 of them, they can't fire high explosive. They can only fire armor piercing. And the armor piercing is a bit meh. It's okay. It's not great, but this ship isn't about the main guns. The main guns are a little, just a side note. Because this thing has 234 millimeter secondaries. Yes, you're reading that right. And now you start seeing why I'm bringing the Cheshire in here. This, I think, wasn't actually completely out of the blue, because there was a discussion about a battleship that had, I think, 406 millimeter main guns, so 16 inch, and something like 9.3 inch secondaries. And I think 9.3 inch would be round about this much. So there was some discussions about a ship of that sort, but not in this combination. But that might be where they've pulled this kind of idea from. But yes, she gets 8 twin turrets of 234 millimeter secondaries with an almost 9 kilometer range. But these things only fire high explosive. And the high explosive damage that they do isn't actually all that great. I mean, it's okay, but given that this is more than heavy cruiser caliber, it's not actually an awful lot. But they have an 11 second reload, but they do have the secondary overload, which obviously makes it 30% longer range and 30% faster reload. Which brings us to the refitted aforementioned 127 millimeter guns, which have a 6.9 kilometer base range. And these are auto secondaries, which means these are firing by themselves. And I haven't actually verified this, but one thing that I just realized when I was looking at the ship, they don't do an awful lot of damage, but 6 second reload, and they're obviously better than the 105s that we find on the Bismarck. But one thing that I just realized, and again, I haven't actually verified this, but I was looking for the secondaries on the ship model. So you've got the main gun turrets here, right? You've got A, B, Q, X, and Y turret. And yes, the Q turret is affected by the turret bug. You've got the frankly ridiculous 234 millimeter secondaries, which are these turrets that you see there on the side, on each side of it. But I have been looking for the 127 mils, and I think you can kind of see a couple of them. You can kind of see a couple of them there in the middle. So there are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That might actually be them. So it might be these around here on the center structure. But I've also seen these guns, and first I thought that these were the auto secondaries. So with that setup, the auto secondaries can definitely fire in both directions at the same time, because they're auto secondaries, right? Manual secondaries can't do this, but auto secondaries can. So you will be these will just be popping away at everything, no matter which side you're on. And yeah, this is what I mean. This is a little bit quirky, isn't it? Do you think these AA guns in this little construction here on top of the bow are going to be particularly happy if anybody fires these main guns? Well, we got the same sort of setup in the rear, right? If you fire across the bow or across the stern, I would very much not want to be an AA gunner on that thing. That sounds like a terrible idea. But yeah, anyway, so that's just aside. Let's get back to the numbers and statistics. So yes, these auto secondaries are sort of fixed mounted around the central superstructure. And it's 10, so 5 each side, but they fire on both sides, obviously. The AA is okay. It's an alright AA. It's not a great AA. The concealment, however, is pretty decent. with 10.26 kilometers, you can actually have a concealment build on this thing. So, what is that then? Let's have a very brief comparison with the Cheshire, because I think the Cheshire is one that actually has, and it's going to be a little awkward here. Yes, the Cheshire has the 234 millimeter main guns with a 10-second reload, but they do more damage and have a better range, obviously, than the secondaries on the Atlântico. But these are also Mark 12s, and the other ones are Mark 11s, so maybe they're a little bit more of a modern variant. Anyway, this is definitely a ship that has the largest secondary battery in the game, because so far that would have been 150 millimeter. So what's this then? What is this ship? Is this the new king of the brawlers? Well, I don't know. It's definitely not a terrible ship. I'd say it's a pretty good ship. And it's also not actually particularly difficult to play, because a lot of the work is being done by the secondary guns. Like I said, the main guns are a bit meh. Penetration isn't the best. The dispersion is awful. And they're more like to give you something to do when your secondaries are reloading. The armor, by the way, is pretty good as well. So I think it was Colorado levels of armor on the main belt. But the deck armor is pretty weak, at least according to the stats from the CSE website. So that is compensated by the pretty good Citadel protection. So it's probably not going to be super easy to Citadel that thing. But the hit point pool is not the highest, and the speed is very low. So for a brawler, if you committed with this thing, then you are committed, because you're not going to get out of it very quickly, because this thing only does 24 knots. So you sort of need to know what you're doing. But that said, it's a pretty amazing ship just to play with the secondaries. So let's have a look at the build. I have put the historical camo on. This is not the historical camo. This is the one that you get out of the premium Blitz pass. Because the premium Blitz pass doesn't just give you this thing. Well, it doesn't give it to you. You have to grind up to level 40 or something. And this is a short Blitz pass, so you're gonna get your missions done. But I think with the premium version, you get that thing plus a slightly less legendary than legendary captain. What were they called? Epic captains or something? Which you might need, because I don't think you can actually get captains from the captain crate for the South American ships yet. And it gives a couple of resources or something. This is actually the better camo, because this gives a secondary battery range and secondary battery auto battery range. Whereas the historical gives hit points, main battery range, and dispersion, and the torpedo damage reduction nobody cares about. This thing actually improves the surface detection and also the range on all the guns. So this is definitely the better camo in my opinion. And if you're already thinking of paying for the Blitz Pass, it might be worth picking this up in together with that. The elite bonus, you get pretty much what you would get on the Germans. So you can get the damage reduction and Citadel protection up, which I think is probably not worth it compared to the reload and auto reload on the secondaries, because that's just more fun. Unfortunately, you don't get the secondary module that the Germans have, so you can either get another 15% of the secondary reload, and that's a good module. I would definitely also recommend that. That is a good module. Or you could use the auxiliary armament mod, which gives you 5% range on both the regular and the auto secondaries, and gives you range on the AA, because your AA is sort of centered around the small caliber. So this gives you a little bit of extra anti-air. Propulsion in 2, and I have actually concealment in 3, because the base surface detection is pretty good. You can throw the concealment, and it nicely synergizes with the special camo that also gives you 4% surface detection. Well, and with that setup, we're going in with 46,000 hit points, which is not an awful lot. So you do have to be careful. But we are going in with a 9.9 second base reload. And remember, that goes down to what, 6.6 seconds once you activate the ship skill. And an almost 10 kilometer range on the main secondaries. And a 5.4 second reload and a 7.6 kilometer base range on the auto secondaries. And remember that the ship skill boosts that by 30%. So these auto secondaries will have an almost 10 kilometer range themselves once that is active. So that is just plain hilarious. And combine that with an 8.8 kilometer surface detection. This thing can probably stealth fire the auto secondaries. Although, what's the point of not firing the other guns? And yeah, this is the Epic Commander that I've got, because that would be the equivalent that you would get in the Premium Blitz Pass thing. She's getting 2 skills that are relevant. The better close quarters combat expert with 20% dispersion reduction. And you kind of need that because the dispersion isn't great. And she also gets the improved horizontal protection expert. Although if the deck's already pretty meh, not sure if it's worth it. But given that it is an improved skill, and you're not going to citadel an awful lot with those main guns anyway, I would say it's still worth taking. Other than that, pretty standard setup. We don't have any rapid reloads or precise aims, so you can do a full hit point and heal build, which I would recommend. And I would even argue that if you have them, that you could load premium consumables into this, especially the premium repair kit, just to get a bit more HP back, because while she is very well armored, the hit point pool is on the low side, and you will notice that your health can go down pretty rapidly, especially at long range. I find if you get shot at long range, so you kind of, and this is where the ship's sort of balanced. You kind of have to get into brawling range, which for this thing is probably around 9 kilometers, relatively quickly, and that's sort of that and closer is sort of the ideal range, but you don't really have the speed to make it happen as well. So I think she's a nicely balanced ship with some very powerful features, but also some drawbacks that are noticeable. So let's get into some games. In the first battle, it's a carrier game on fault line base capture, and we're up against Shokaku, Izumo, Double Tirpitz, Amagi, and Albemarle, and a Kagero. Only 1 destroyer, always much appreciated when I'm in a battleship. But there's a Shokaku there, so we do have to see what we're going to be doing with this. Now, fault line, not a grand map, because very difficult to support each other on this. But we don't have a battleship spawning on the eastern flank. So over there we've got Cleveland and Yugumo, and there's a Vanguard. So I'll try to stick with Cleveland. He's got AA, but it looks like the carrier is coming straight down the middle. So I'm going to cut across the bow here of the Vanguard, and see that I can give these two a little bit of fire support. But we'll see where Shokaku is going. I'm going to stick as close as possible to Vanguard. Fighters are coming along as well. And we'll see if we can... Yeah, there he comes. Okay, excuse me. I'm gonna need to get through here. Yeah, there he comes. Yeah, sorry for that. I just need to try and get away from these torpedo planes if I can, but yeah, a little bit too late. So yeah, obviously a flood, but that's okay. We can Damacon that. I haven't even taken that much damage, so we can still hold off on the first heal for a little bit. But of course now I'm a little out of position here, and as you can see, the range on the main guns isn't the greatest. I mean, it's tier 8, so you're not going to get super long ranges yet, but I'm coming. I'm coming. So Cleveland is going defensive against something over there, battleshipy. That might be one of the Tirpitzes. Tirpitzi? I don't know. There's Yugumo. I'm not sure what he's waiting for. I mean, if it's just the Tirpitz, then he should be able to do. But the carrier is helping out as well. And someone is furiously... Yeah, it's a Tirpitz. Someone's furiously pinging the Tirpitz. Who might have... Oh, there's also a destroyer there. Okay. So now I'm in range of the main guns, so I can start unloading. There you see the turret pug in action. But it's not actually that bad on this ship. Because the... and yeah, you see the main guns, meh, very meh. Because you can't... it's the Q turret, so it's not necessary. It's got a pretty decent angle, so it's not necessarily a massive problem. So we'll try to help out. And yeah, I have a 12.45 kilometer range on the secondaries. Okay, so that Tirpitz looks relatively deadish. I'll just see if we can get a couple of shots lobbed over the island. Nope, it looks like we can't lob that, so that was a bit of a waste of a secondary overload. But he might get away with this. But the cargo, maybe not. So let's see if we can do something. But Cleveland is now seems to have found yet another battleship, and that Tirpitz is still alive. So unless the carrier, nope, the Yugumo actually gets him. Nicely done, Yugumo. But has paid dearly with that. And there comes another Tirpitz, and this one is full health. So Cleveland, get down, Mr. President. I'll take this one. Because I've got the belt armor to deal with that. So come on, Tirpitz. I know you want to torpedo me. Let's see what you got. And yes, at this range, the main guns can and will hurt. But it's all about the fun in the secondaries. Unfortunately, I don't have the overload ready because I spent that earlier to get in range of the other Tirpitz. But come on, shoot me, don't shoot Cleveland. And you see that as long as he hits my belt armor, there's not an awful lot happening. And at this range, I can absolutely hurt him with the main guns. And yes, you have a 5.6 kilometer range on the torpedoes. And now I've got my secondary overload up. Now he's realized that there's Cleveland, but now it's a little bit too late because now he's dead. And Cleveland say thank you. You were very much welcome. But yeah, that was a full health Tirpitz. That did not last particularly long. Cleveland's taken a couple of hits, but I've gotten out of that one pretty much scot-free. So definitely try to shoot at the deck armor, similar to what you would do with the Colorado. Pretty tanky belt armor, but the deck armor is terrible. So I can't really verify that yet because I haven't played against enough of these things, if that's really the case. But at least that's what the hidden stats are saying. So now that we've got that cleaned up, so that's two Tirpitz is gone. Our Yugumo hasn't survived the ordeal, but I'd say this is the enemy team relatively comprehensively cleaned up, and now we're just going to have to make our way over there to deal with the carrier. This is sort of where the problem comes in, because as you can see, now that I finally managed to turn the ship around, I am doing a whopping 25.2 knots, which could be worse. It could be 21 knots, but it's also not an awful lot. So it's going to be a little until I'm actually in range of something again. And there's not an awful lot left here, although the Albemarle has just taken out the Vanguard. And I'm still reasonably certain that we've got this. He would have to kill a lot of things. The carrier is still alive, but he's now carrier spotted. So there's probably some unpleasantly large caliber shells incoming on that Shokaku. And we're just now slowly making our way up this flank and see if we can still get something in range. So like I said, in a brawl, this thing is amazing. It's a very, very powerful battleship, but it's not particularly quick, and the amount of hit points isn't the greatest. But hold that thought, because I think we're about to reach something, get something in range. Yep, that's the Albemarle. We might be able to still get a couple of hit points and a couple of points of damage in. And if I activate the secondary overload, yep, there we go. That gets the secondaries in range. But yeah, as you can see, the main gun semi-pens on the Albemarle, meh, at this range. They need to get close. The mains need to get close to be effective. And the secondaries, we might be able to get him with the secondaries. Yep, so let's see if we can take the Shokaku down. And yeah, even against the Shukaku, a bunch of semi-pens really with the main guns. It's not the greatest, but again, this is not what the ship's about. The main guns are kind of nice, they're kind of there. They're good to do some additional damage and to entertain yourself while you're shredding things with your secondaries. But if you're up against this thing, just keep in mind that this is basically a Cheshire when it has the secondary overload up. You can do some frightful amount of damage with these guns when that's active. So yeah, we've done a little bit more with the main guns, probably also thanks to the 2 citadels. But then again, 70,000 points of damage for a tier 8 is good, but well, you can also still do more. In this game, we are playing base capture on encounter. And again, it's a carrier map, but we are top tier this time. Up against Hear You, another Atlântico, Amagi, Double Nelson, New Orleans, and yet again one destroyer at Lonely Kagero. Who, given that there's an Indianapolis on our team and an Illustrious, is probably not feeling all that brave. Well, let's see. He can still do a lot of good if he stays out of the scouting path of the carrier. But we are spawning on the right flank together with Turpitz. Hello, Turpitz. And with Asashio. Asashio might be able to do some scouting in case the carrier cannot. So all ahead flank for what it's worth. And let's find ourselves something to shoot at. Because you really want to be at close range with this thing, ideally. Hello, Mr. Turpitz. You want to come? Alright. Do you want to come along and brawl stuff? I think the two of us could do quite some interesting things there. Alright, see if we can find something. And the carrier is just getting his planes captured, but hasn't actually sent out anything to scout. So that is already promising. Oh no, there come the dive bombers. And yeah, the fighters have died, so the friendly carrier is now scouting straight ahead and has found the Kagero, who has not yet figured out that being spotted by the carrier is a bad thing. What he's also about to figure out is that he's in my secondary range. And if I can hit him, first of all, he just gets slapped by the carrier. He smokes up, which is not going to do him an awful lot of good. He's a little late for that. You should have smoked up the moment you were spotted. That would have been better. But maybe now he's going to go and disengage and get the rest of his hit points out of there. No, he keeps sailing in a straight line straight into the friendly team. I'm not sure what his plan was here, but that's not how you Kagero. And that's the end of the Kagero. The Asashio, meanwhile, has found the Amagi and the Hiryu. So Asashi is dropping the Amagi. Let's see, that's probably not going to kill him. That's a full health Amagi. So let's see if we can help out a little bit. But we'll also see how much damage the Asashio is going to do with those. Like I said, even against an Amagi, not an amazing amount, but he obviously now done the flood and the shot rudder that he received. And as you can see, with the overload, the auto secondaries are already opening up. So that Amagi now is going to be in a little bit more trouble. And I'm just going to keep going here, because the rest of the team's out of position. As they should have really covered this side here. So unless they are going to make their way through, and that Amagi is going to be dead in a second, there he goes. Unless they're going to make their way through, yeah, they're going to be in range. Well, I've got Atlântico and double Nelson. Okay, Asashio goes after the Hiryu. So I'm not going to focus the Hiryu. I'll let Asashio deal with that. But I'm going to start opening up at the Nelsons over there, who are probably going to be setting me insta-fires. No, that's actually surprising. But I'm going to get into the capture circle, just in case this turns into a base trade. And see, now the enemy team has a problem. Because they haven't been pushing aggressively enough to go for a base trade. And now they've dithered, and now they have to defend. But which is completely possible, because that's another Atlântico over there, and a double Nelson. So double fire, and I'm going to damage on that. I'm going to be on triple insta fire anyway. Oh, and triple perma fire anyway. But it looks like the Asashio has problems with the carrier. So I'm not going to focus the carrier. I do want to try and get that Nelson killed. The problem is I also have to sit within the capture circle, and I have tried to dodge a little bit. because that's double Nelson and Atlântico. So I don't want to be within his secondary range, while at the same time keeping the Nelsons in my secondary range. And with the overload up, 8 kilometers is perfectly fine for the 127s to make their way here. But of course, the amount of fires that these things are going to set is going to be eventually the death of me. I believe in the meantime, while I wasn't looking, my auto secondaries have finished off the carrier. That's what I meant earlier with that they can shoot in both directions. Okay, Mayan has just found out that Nelsons tend to have HE loaded, and I think the Asashio is about to make that a discovery as well. So we're equal on points, but we're capping. Now I'm gonna die, and I think the other Atlântico has eaten a bunch of torpedoes. I'm gonna die, but I'm gonna try and take that Nelson down with me, because I know something that they seem to have missed, and that's that there's a Tirpitz behind me, because he's been coming along. So setting the Nelson on fire, shots out. That may be enough to kill him. Yeah, he gets me, but I get him as well. So that's the Nelsons down, and I think at this point, even though it's even on kills, that's a full health Tirpitz, because I've been chunking this whole time, and he just finishes the cup, and that's that. So yeah, Kagero would have been really useful around about that moment, just to delay our flank here, because Asashio's got deep waters. And he could have just stayed hidden and torpedoed the crap out of us, delayed us while the rest of his team does the pushing. But yeah, that's more like it. 90,000 damage, and we've done almost exactly the same amount with the secondaries that we've done with the main guns. And this is not just the 234mm, this is also to a nice degree the auto secondaries, because once again, don't forget, they shoot both ways. And with a range of 9 kilometers, yeah, they shoot both ways for quite a distance. So, is this ship worth getting? Yeah, I think it's a great ship. It's great fun to play. It's easy to play. It's very easy to play because of the range. Is it completely overpowered? I don't think so. I think the ship is relatively simple to focus down because of the low hit point pool, and if you shoot from range with armor piercing or just burn it down, she will go down reasonably quickly. But I think this is, and also remember the setup. I think this is definitely worth the price that you see at the moment for the Blitz Pass. If you manage to get through the missions, then it's absolutely worth it, because I can almost guarantee you, when that thing makes it into the shipyard, it's going to be a bit more expensive, or into a bundle, and you're not going to get your hands on this camo or the Epic Commander that easily. So all in all, I'd say that is a pretty nice thing to get after the 0.8% Slava shenanigans that we've been seeing earlier. And if you're in the market for a tier 8 brawler and you like playing things like the Bismarck, then I think you'll be right at home in this machine. Anyway, that's it for me today. Thanks everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.